Well, hello. What did I watch today? Species. Classic 90s sci-fi. I wouldn't call it horror, but I see it on a lot of horror lists. I think it's a sci-fi, straight up. I mean, there's some creepy elements, but whatever. Anyway, if you're new to the channel, I watch a movie, I sit down, and I yammer on about it. One single take, no jump cuts, nothing like that. Just raw, real, unfiltered, me fumbling through, attempting to sound remotely professional. Maybe not even that. Anyway, spoiler alert, I will be talking about the film, things that happen in the film, yada yada yada. As Elaine Bennis would say, you've been warned. So let's get into it. I'll try to get through the synopsis relatively quickly. It will have spoilers, as I mentioned. Anyway, first scene, we cut to a woman in a containment, or a young girl in a containment facility, I should say. I think she's in her early teens or whatever, in some lab. And she wakes up kind of confused. These people in hazmat suits approach with canisters of cyanide, and they start attaching it to the inside of the containment glass area where she is in, and start pumping in the gas. So she's freaking out. The room fills with gas. You see a guy watching over it. I guess he's like the head of that department or whatever. And you see like a single tear going down his eye. So I guess he's got mixed feelings about it, whatever. This is one of our main characters of the film by the name of Fitch. He is essentially in charge of this operation here. Anyway, needless to say, she breaks through the unbreakable or bulletproof glass or whatever, so super strong, and bolts, gets through the security doors, all that stuff, jumps onto a train. Security is not quick enough to intercept or strong enough to intercept, and she's out. So that's good. She jumps the fence, gets on a train, kills a hobo in the train because, that's what you do, right? Hobo was looking a little pervy, so, I'm okay with that one. So anyway, we've got this super powered individual. Is that what she is? Well, we don't know. We'll find out, right? So they decide to put security checkpoints at key stops on this train's route to make sure that they intercept her before she gets into the general population, which fails spectacularly. This girl has very strange visions. She's showing a humanoid looking thing and pulsating stuff, and I think there's worms or something in one scene. Anyway, on this train she ends up mutating, and she's kind of freaking out when she's mutating. Her skin is bubbling and changing, and her bone structure is shifting, and she ends up making a weird little cocoon thing. It's okay, what is going on here? And there was a lady that was super nice to her on the train, the ticket person, who's since you're 12, we'll just say you're 11, and then your ticket's half price. And anyway, she gets killed, so needless to say. I don't know. So this is Syl, by the way. This is it's an alien-human hybrid, essentially. So what the backstory is they talk about SETI, which is Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligent Life, etc. Finally received a signal in 1993 with communication for what seems to be an alien race, and it gave them something about a renewable energy source based on methane or something like that. I can't remember. Maybe it wasn't methane, but anyway, it's an energy source, as well as a new DNA sequence that Fitch in his lab had essentially decided, hey, you know what? I got a great idea. Let's merge this DNA sequence with a human and see what happens. I guess it's supposed to be a more efficient, disease-fighting DNA sequence. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, it's introduced as sort of here's a helpful thing, and it turns out that this is more or less the aliens spreading their genes, maybe, I don't know. So anyway, in a lab they genetically follow the formula for making these DNAs, put all little peptides and all that together, or whatever you call them, and we have Syl. So she is not very old. When we first meet her, she's 12 or 13 or whatever, but she's I don't know, a couple hours old or a couple days old or something like that. And she's now into a fully grown looking woman, in her mid-20s or something. And she's out, obviously. She escaped. She got onto another train, and now she's in LA. So we get a group assembled where we're introduced to our other protagonists. We got Dan, who's played by Forrest Whitaker. Awesome. Always love to see him in movies. He's an empath, apparently, so he can pick up on emotional changes in like electricity, or I don't know really how that works, but he's an empath and he can essentially use that ability to track things properly, I guess, because that's what he's used as, is essentially a tracker. Then we have Laura, who's a biologist, so I mean that makes sense, right? Obviously. We have Steven, who is a Harvard professor, I think, of some kind, played by Dr. Octopus. That was pretty cool. Alfred, what's his name? Whatever. Anyway, Doc Ock. But Steven in this film, and he doesn't have those tentacles. Those would have been pretty useful, probably, but anyway. And then we have Preston, or Press as he goes, and he doesn't really give exact details on his background, but he's essentially, I'm going to assume, a bounty hunter, or like an assassin, or something like this. Anyway, he's some mysterious black book type deal. He's not that mysterious of a character, though, but anyway. He gives the exposition about what happened, tells them all the stuff about the alien doohickeys and whatnot, and the merging of DNA, and explains basically what SIL is, essentially. And so, obviously, scientist wants to take a look at the cell structure and see if you can learn maybe some of its weaknesses or whatever. So they do that. They recreate a cell in the lab, and she goes to inject it with something, and the needle's not penetrating the cell, the membrane or whatever. And then the power goes out or whatever to their electron microscope or whatever it is, and so they have to go into the lab where the cell is, of course, right, and replace the camera or something like that. But the cell starts mutating rapidly into like this pulsing green thing, like insanely rapidly, like going from one single cell to like a blob that's filling up slowly the containment thing. So they go to quickly lock it. Of course, Preston drops a screw because, you know, good job, Mr. Friggin' espionage or whatever the hell your position is. And it falls through the grate. So basically, Fitch is like, I'm not letting them out. I have to basically torch the room to make sure that none of this gets out. And of course, the other people are like, no, you gotta let them out. And there's a struggle, and eventually Steven smashes the button opening the door, and they shut it. And just in time, the fire goes, and boom, the cell blob thing is dead. Anyway. So what did they learn from that? Not a lot, really, only that it's super rapidly evolving, which is not a good thing, but I guess that's useful knowledge, right? Anyway, back to our good friend Syl. She finds a motel after robbing the train that she was on, so she's got a ton of money to, like, do whatever with, I guess, because she witnesses someone using money in a transaction. And she's like, okay, so I need this to blend in. At this point, she hasn't spoken. We don't know if she can speak English or not, but it turns out she is learning. So she ends up buying a motel room for the night. She ends up going dress shopping and buys like a wedding dress. And there she actually says yes in response to the clerk's questions or whatever about the sales. She says yes twice and nothing more. So you're like, okay, she's slowly learning English. Very cool. Anyway, she goes to the concierge, I guess you could call it, or the guy who runs the motel, and is like, hey, where's a good place to find a man? The guy's like, I immediately thought he's going to say himself, and that's going to be your victim. But no, he doesn't. So he says there's a club down the road or whatever, and go there, and there's lots of people, you know, trying to hook up there. So that's your best bet. She's like, okay, cool. Goes to the club. The actress who plays Syl, by the way, absolutely stunning. So obviously the bouncer lets her cut in line and says, you can go in. She's like, okay, sweet. She ends up meeting this guy, and they kind of flirt a little bit, but she's interrupted by some other girl that I guess he was there with, and she uses some line of, like, I can't remember what she says, but anyway, Syl uses that same line later. But anyway, she goes to the bathroom and says, I'll be right back, and then we'll head off, and Syl follows her. And as she goes into the bathroom, Syl decides to smash her hand through the wall, sever her spine. You see, like, her broken spine sticking out of her back, so that's fun. And so she's dead. So that's eliminating the sexual competition, because her biology is now dictating that she needs to breed. That's the standard biology in any organism, to be completely fair, but I guess hers is like, that's her driving source of her species. So mixed with like humans and how lusty we are, we're not that much better, to be fair. Anyway, she ends up taking this guy home, or going to this guy's house, but then she stops as he's like coming on to her. She's like, actually, you know what, can you take me back? He's like, no. She's like, no, like seriously, can we go? He's like, no, you're not going anywhere. So he's a creep, and he fucked around and found out, which is good, because people like that, you know, fuck off, right? Anyway, he like forces herself onto her, and she just gives in. She's like, fine, and she kills him, tongue through the back of his neck. So he dead. Good riddance to a piece of shit like that, in all honesty. Not that I wish death on people, but in this movie, I'm allowed to cheer for idiots getting killed. Anyway, he's dead. The crew, that's our group of, like, you know, Steven and Press and Laura and all them and Fitch. I'm going to call them the crew because I don't have, like, there's not official word for them. So the crew is always seeming to be one step behind Syl. So they do track her down to this dude's house. And she stole his BMW, by the way, so. And she learned to drive, too, but doesn't figure out the concept of gas, I guess. So she's learning, but, like, progressively, you know, according to, you witness something, you're going to learn it. Anyway, fast learner, whatever. She can speak full English now, too, which is great. Anyway, the crew arrives at the house, finds the body. They're like, yeah, this is definitely Syl, so we got to find her. They track her down to the motel, and the motel guy says, yeah, shows the picture, and they're like, oh, shit, she's, like, evolved. She was... When they were tracking her initially, everyone had, you know, photos from Fitch of, like, a little 12-year-old girl. That's fine. Now she's a full-grown adult, so the security footage is a little blurry, but they kind of get the gist of, you know, what she looks like. She ends up leaving her BMW that ran out of gas. She's like, okay, well, I guess you just only work for a short period of time. Doesn't know gas. Why would she, right? Gets hit by a car, so some guy is, like, swerving and boom, smokes her. She goes flying into, like, a bus shelter or something, and some guy in a car, like, slams on his brake and runs over, and it's a hit and run. So the guy who hit her takes off, but the other guy is like, oh my god. Takes her to a hospital, and the check-in nurse or whatever, the triage, that's what it is, right? Says, like, okay, what's your name? Can you give me a... He's like, I have no idea. She's like, okay, does she have insurance? He's like, I don't know. Put it on my card. Honestly, we'll figure that out later. It's like, wow, okay, don't even know her name, and you're paying for insurance. So, for Canadian viewers who may not know, I'm sure we all do, but, like, U.S. hospitals are not cheap. So that's a pretty noble gesture. Anyway, she's in bed, and the doctor's looking at her. He says she has a broken scapula, but then he witnesses her, like, shoulder healing itself in front of him. He's like, what the fuck? She gets up and leaves, and the nurse is like, we have a little burn boy victim or something. And another thing, and he's still like, what the hell just happened? Anyway, she leaves, meets the guy, and he's like, oh wow, you're okay? She's like, yeah, of course. He's like, okay, well, I guess they, as a gesture of, you know, good faith or something, he takes her out to lunch or dinner or something. And anyway, it goes back to her place, and she finds out that she likes him. So why did she reject the first guy and not this guy? Or kill the first guy and not this guy? If only all she wants to do is mate, right? So, you know, theoretically, whether the guy is aggressive or not, she could overpower him. She could still mate with him, right? Well, it turns out she has a genetic trait that allows her to pick up on defects in potential mates. Some animals have that too. Like if there's like a cancerous, or, you know, if they're diseased or something. Anyway, turns out the crew finds a needle in the house, and right away they think drugs. And they're like, no, it's insulin. So she picked up that he had diabetes and was like, okay, you're not the ideal breeding partner because my offspring could potentially get that through your genetics. So very cool. This guy, however, I guess he's good. Anyway, she ends up becoming aggressively flirty, but I mean, looking like that, he's sort of trying to play the gentleman, so good on him. But I mean, you can only hold back so long, I guess, with someone like that. So they're in the pool, and she's like completely naked, and he's like, oh wow, okay. And they start kissing, and she goes for his swim trunks. He's like, hey, come on, slow down. Which again, props, dude. Like that takes a lot of anyway, I guess she convinces him, you know, just okay, I'll slow down, but let's keep making out. And they do, and then eventually it gets to a little hot and heavy-ish, and she says, I want a baby. And he's like, what the fuck? And tries to jump out of the pool. Like, okay, that is a crazy thing to hear on, like, your first date with someone, especially someone you met by taking them to the hospital. Anyway, whatever. So he freaks out. She ends up killing him without breeding, unfortunately, I guess. Yeah. The crew ends up at that guy's house and see his body, and they're like, okay, well, there's no sign that like actual sex happened, so she is likely not impregnated yet, so we don't have to stress too much. But based on like how evolved she is, if she does get impregnated, her young will likely evolve at the same quickness and set out to find mates of their own, and it's like a boom, like a pandemic of sexually aggressive predator alien humans, which, yeah, we don't want that, obviously, right? That's clearly not something we want. Anyway, Syl takes off, doesn't bother getting dressed, runs into the street. There's this woman buying groceries, getting into her car, and Syl jumps in the car all naked, and the woman's like, oh my god, what the hell are you doing? And she's like, oh my god, you gotta help me. And obviously, you know, a naked woman screaming for help, another woman is probably going to attempt to help her, which, you know, that's very kind of her and whatever. Anyway, then we see Syl driving this woman's car, so we assume she's dead, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, the crew doesn't really have any other leads beyond that, so they're talking and they're like, okay, well, let's go to the nightclub again because she's likely going to strike there. We don't have any other evidence to prove otherwise. That's our best shot. But Syl is in the distance from the car watching, and she can read lips like perfectly, so she sees Fitch saying this. So she's way ahead of the plan there. So they're at the club and they're kind of observing, I guess. They don't see anything with Syl. We got a little bit of a bond of Steven and Dan are becoming buddies a little bit. They're partying, and there's also a little bit of a hint of a romance between Press and Laura. And Fitch, I guess, doesn't give a shit because whatever, he's the lead or whatever. Anyway, there is an encounter where Dan feels something. He's like, okay, something's weird. I need to go outside. I'm sensing something. And he goes out into like the back alley and he has his first encounter with Syl. And they're like face to face. And whatever. Anyway, he doesn't get his comeuppance. She takes off and whatnot. But he now knows exactly what she looks like. So that's great. He confirms with the others. They end up chasing her because she's running to her car, and they see her running, so they're able to get into their car and follow fast enough. And there's this whole chase scene, and very 1995 chase scene. I love it. Anyway, Syl decides, okay, well, I forgot to mention something. So we find out that the grocery girl is actually tied up in her own house in the bed, and Syl is keeping her alive for whatever reason, which we find out the reason. And Syl takes a pair of like pruning shears and cuts off her own thumb, and the woman's like, oh my god, what the hell? And then she goes to this grocery girl's hand and is about to cut her finger off, and it slips. So why is this important? Because in the car when they're chasing her, grocery girl is tied up in the passenger seat. Anyway, she goes over like an edge, like down a bumpy hillside or whatever, and there's like an electrical outlet box. I don't know what they're called, those green things that have that don't touch, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, car is heading straight for that. The crew obviously stops because it's like, we're not going down there, we could easily die. It's very bumpy, like it's not meant for cars. Anyway, I guess when she's slightly out of view, Syl bails on the car, and grocery woman is stuck in the car. This poor woman, and it smashes into the electrical box, and it turns out that Syl had filled a bunch of containers with gasoline in the back of the car too, so boom, right? Just to be extra sure, I guess Fitch had people on standby because we have these helicopters that were also chasing Syl's car, and they fire a couple of rockets at the already exploded car. So grocery girl is toast. That's what you get for being a good person, I guess, right, in this movie. Two people that were genuinely pretty decent people dead. So Syl's not limited to just asshole people. She's going to kill whoever she needs to kill to progress her goal of breeding and impregnating her, getting herself impregnated. Anyway, they see the explosion. They don't see her bail. They even look on the site. I guess they find the burned body, so that's why Grocery Girl was alive. And they find Syl's severed thumb, and they notice Grocery Girl's body, I guess, is missing a thumb. They take the thumb back to the lab. They do genetic looking at it, find out, yes, it is confirmed to be her. So Syl's dead. Great, perfect, we're good. No, we're not. We're not good, guys. We're not good at all. Find out Syl's fine. She cuts her hair and dyes it brunette. Also a very good look. I'm not trying to sound like a creeper or nothing, but just they found the perfect actress for like a seductress femme fatale alien human hybrid. That's all I'm gonna say there. The crew goes out and celebrates, and they're bonding over Long Island iced teas, which fine, they're good. Granted, that is a very good drink. And again, Dan and Steven are bonding a little bit, and Press and Laura have sort of a little bit of a moment where they dance, but then he thinks she sees Syl, and he ditches her on the dance floor and turns this woman around. It's some blonde woman, and she's just like, what the fuck? And he's like, oh shit, I thought you were someone else. And the boyfriend's just like, dude, back the fuck up. Anyway, so that kind of ruins the night. She's like, okay, I'm going to bed or whatever. And she takes off, and Press sits down with the boys, and they're just like, you do realize she's basically inviting you, right? And he's like, oh, okay, maybe I'll go investigate that. And so he does. He goes and follows. Meanwhile, our two boys, Dan is like, all right, well, or no, sorry, Steven's like, okay, well, let's see if we can find someone for tonight, too. And Dan's kind of like, no, honestly, I'm going to go to bed. I'm not really into that stuff. And Steve's like, all right, whatever, that's fine. So Dan goes off to bed. We cut to Press and Laura, who have a slightly awkward scene of interactions before they eventually have sex. Great, good for them. They're in love. A little bit of a forced romance, but you know what? In this era, that's basically what movies had. So it wasn't overbearingly forced, so I'll allow it. Anyway, Dan senses something's off. And he's right. Because Syl is in Steven's room listening through the wall to the other two having sex. And so it seemed like for a while she had her eye on Preston as, like, I guess her ideal mate or whatever. But then the door opens and Steven walks in and he sees her and doesn't recognize her. Well, he hadn't had like a face-to-face interaction with her yet. Only Dan had, I guess. So he hasn't, brunette also. They're looking for a blonde. He probably figures, like, I don't know. Anyway, she immediately shifts her attention to him. I guess he is also a good match. He's in good condition. He's very intelligent as a Harvard professor. So she shifts her focus immediately from being jealous of Preston getting it on in the next room to, well, Steven's right here. That'll work just as well. And it does. She thinks up on the spot right away, like, okay, I saw you in the club and I was just waiting for you to, get you alone or something. I got the keys I stole them from a room service card or something. I don't know. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, they bang. So, that's a thing. It's relatively normal. So Steven doesn't think anything of it. It's just like it's his lucky day, I guess, right? Anyway, right after, she's like, I can feel it. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, inside of me. And he laughs. He's like, oh, my child. That's a common misconception. A lot of people think that they can, they can tell the moment of impregnation. What is the word called? I don't remember. Anyway, the moment when, like, a life is officially conceived. But that's just a myth or whatever. She's like, no, feel. And takes his hand and puts it on her stomach, and then his eyes go like that. And then you cut to Dan walking down the hall, and he knocks on Laura's door, and here's Preston and her in there, and good man. He's not going to make it awkward or anything. But regardless, he says something's up. I feel like Syl is still alive, and obviously Preston still has on his mind. He's like, all right, let's go get Steven. They go to Steven's room, and he's dead. So Syl killed him. I guess like a praying mantis or Black Widow thing, right? Just kill him. She didn't eat him though, mind you, but he dead. And she preggo. So that's good. Oh boy. Anyway, they end up following Dan's senses, which lead him into like an underground corridor. I can't remember where it is. It's either like a sewer maintenance passage or something, which takes him down a manhole. Into an actual like sewer, which ends up going further, and I guess there's like a cavernous area. So they go into this underground cavern, and it's all like, natural rock and stuff, which, I mean, sure, why not? I don't know how that connects to like a sewer system, but It does. But anyway, in the sewer system, though, Dan can't quite pick up what direction she went, left or right. And he's like, I think she went here. And Fitch is just, he's annoyed. He's like, you don't even fucking know, do you? Do you have powers at all? Like, what good are you? You know? Even though he's like gotten them to where she's been every single time, I guess Fitch has his doubts. Okay, so Fitch fucks off one way, and Laura and Press going the way that Dan suggested, and Dan's kind of like, Anyway, Fitch gets his. She's in the water, so that's why I guess Dan couldn't pick it up for whatever reason. I guess the water blocks empathy waves or something. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Fitch dies. Nothing too ceremonial. He's just dead. He was pulled in the water. Whatever. Anyway. Dan finds him. Everyone's like, oh shit. They go further into this cavern. There are remaining 3 heroes, and it turns out that there is a young child up on like a rocky ledge, and Dan climbs up and sees the kid, and the kid's just like figuring out existence. He's like looking at himself like, what the hell? So she already gave birth, which makes sense to how fast she breeds and all that, and reproductive, and the kid's growing, and the kid starts mutating, and Dan tries to climb up to, he's kind of like stuck in like a moral ground, like it's a creature, but it's like a child, like anyway. The thing fully mutates into like its true form and like lashes out and jumps on Dan, who is knocked onto like the ground, and shoots up. He's got like a flamethrower, torches the little baby guy, and is safe, so that's good. And Syl obviously has seen her child exterminated. I guess she only does one because she's, got the human DNA, so she can't lay a million eggs or whatever, right? So that's good. But anyway, she's not happy. She's in her true form now. She has tentacles that come out of like her sides and her nipples, which is very important. She goes after Dan, whatever, and this whole scuffle thing. Anyway, it ends up with her trying to pull Dan down, and they pull Dan up, and she jumps up, and then Preston's ready with a shotty, blasts her head off, boom, head flies off, falls into like a pit of fire. So by the way, this canyon has, I guess, natural oil seepage into it. So it's basically like a pool because of the flamethrower. The kid alien flaming body falling in the water cause it to set on fire. Anyway, this whole thing. They'd be dying like coughing, by the way, but that's neither here or there. Anyway, Syl's dead. Good times. Head explodes, and that's it. And then we see a rat pull like a little tentacle away, and it's like, okay, well, I guess she's dead, right? And then we see another rat that's looking all weird and breathing kind of heavy, and tongue darts out, and tongue stabs another rat to kill it. And so, okay, I guess when it ate the tentacle, it got some of the DNA, and now it's evolving into the next species. Roll the credits. Sorry, that took a little longer than I wanted to, but that was Species. What did I think? It was pretty fun, I'll be totally honest with you. I believe I saw this like a long time ago, maybe like when it first came out or shortly after. I would have been young, so I think this was rated R. I think I watched it at a buddy's place or something. I can't remember, but I remember next to nothing about it, and I was a little skeptical going in. It's like, okay, we got like a sex alien, how serious can we take it? And I mean, it's self-aware, but not in a self-depreciating way. So it is done pretty good. As far as 90s sci-fi horror, I guess we'll call it, movies go, it's pretty competent in that regard. The acting is pretty great. Like I said, we got Doc Ock, we got Whitaker. Ben Kingsley, by the way, is Fitch, so that's good. And then this girl that they got to play Syl, Natasha, is it Natasha? Natalie? I don't remember. There's an N in her name somewhere. I probably should have looked this up, but she rocked the role. Like she got the look good. She's like this perfect human specimen looking thing. Like if you look up in a biology book what like an attractive human at their peak would look like, this girl looks like that pretty much. She plays the role very well, like with her learning and stuff. Again, I'm gonna not go into spoilers or nothing, but the way she plays the balance of human alien, she does it quite well as she progresses through the film. yeah, and I can't say too much more because this is no spoiler part. Anyway, the story itself is, it's pretty typical. You got the lab thing and all that, so I mean, we've done that countless times, but it's a tried and true story starter, so that's fine. I have no real issues with that. Some of the action scenes were good. Kills weren't insane. The one kill I mentioned at the club was decent. Like, you see the aftermath of it more than anything and it happening. That was pretty good. The rest are a little tame. The reason this got an R rating is because there are a lot of boobs. So, it's definitely not for the violence or the swearing or whatever. It's definitely the boobs. So, you choose your battles, right? But it seemed a little bit like, obviously they're using sex sells to sell the movie because it's a sex alien. Like, what else are you gonna do, right? You know that's gonna draw an audience. But there's a fairly decent balance of, like, here are some shots for the boys and actual, like, story and character progression and all that stuff. That makes it more than just a standard low budget horror movie with boobs. So that's pretty cool. I appreciate that. I got no problem with them showing boobs. Obviously, I'm a guy, but at the same time, I kind of would like a story along with that, and this gives you one. The way the film progresses, it doesn't really ever feel too slow. I can't remember how long this movie is. I think it's just under 2 hours though, but it's over an hour and a half. So I'm gonna guess an hour and 45. I don't know, but it felt like it flowed properly. There was never a moment where I'm like, ugh, can something happen? Which is definitely good. The creature's design, so the true form of Syl, was designed by H.R. Geiger, who you probably know did the Xenomorphs from the Alien series. And you can kind of tell that it has that same kind of biomechanical look to it, which I always love. Like, Xenomorph, I think, is one of the coolest designed creatures in any horror movie. Like that and Pumpkinhead. But Pumpkinhead wasn't Geiger, it was Stan Winston, but also he's brilliant too. But he's not anything to do with this movie. So the design of the creature is good, and it has that Geiger feel. It's not Xenomorph good, but it's hard to top that, let's be real. So for what it is, pretty good. There's a mix of, like, regular effects and CGI effects, and the CGI effects aren't used very frequently, but when they are, you can absolutely tell that it's CGI and not practical. Which, 1995, I mean, what are you gonna do, right? Jurassic Park is like the one exception where the CGI was ridiculous. Even for, like, now standards, it's pretty solid. But most movies, I guess they didn't have the same tech as Spielberg and company, so CGI in the 90s was a little rough for the most part, but they use it very sparingly. I can only remember 2 scenes, and they're like flashes, that there was CGI, so I'm okay with that. Overall, did the ending leave me satisfied? A little bit, yeah. Again, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but I was okay with that little end scene there. The post-credit, they didn't have a post-credits, but it's what you would see in a post-credit scene usually, but they just put it before the credits because 90s they didn't really do those post-credit scenes. Anyway, that being said, I liked it. I did. What am I going to rate it, though? Yeah, I really did get a kick out of it. So, what will I give it? I'm going to give it I'm going to put it in the 6s, honestly, because it was better than I thought it was going to be. Trying to compare to what I've rated other movies, but I shouldn't do that. I should just give it like a from the heart rating, right? I don't want to compare it to other things. So I'm going to give it a 6.3. 6.3, yeah. But to make it unique, we'll give it a 6.3003. Because why not? So that's my rating. So, should you watch Species? I think you should. I mean, as long as you're not offended by, like, boobs, you should be good. I realize this is released the day after Halloween. I wouldn't really say it's a Halloween season type movie, but I mean, it's a fun watch. It's not really horror, like I said. It's more sci-fi than anything. So when you get into it, expect that. Don't expect so much of a creature feature. It is a creature feature, but you know what I mean. It's much more leaning on the sci-fi heavy element, and the creature reveal, you know, it's not the whole movie. Like, a lot of the majority of the movie is based around Syl in the non-creature form. Anyway, I think we'll leave it at that. This is already pretty long, but that was Species. Yeah, check it out. It's pretty fun. Just remember, it's a 90s film, so it is a very 1995 film. Like when they have a scene in the dance club, you hear very 1995 music, and some of the outfits are very 95. So it's dated, but it's still a good time. So check it out. Let me know what you thought if you watched it. Tell me it's garbage. Tell me it's great. Tell me you think I'm pretty much right on the spot with that one. Yeah. We'll cut it. Okay, bye.